Good evening, Dungeon Masters. I'm Baron Durop. The zombie thriller film 28 Days Later teaches us a masterclass on how to run a riveting D&D survival horror adventure. This film shows us how to create an existential threat, how to work with the players to build a sense of security from that threat, and then turn that sense of security upside down into a truly explosive ending. Let's get into it. In 28 Days Later, the protagonist, Jim, awakens as naked as the day he was born, alone in a hospital. Confused and hungry, he sets out to look for basic necessities: food, clothing, and shelter. As Dungeon Masters, we should set the stage for survival the same way. Players may act like they hate us for it, but starting their characters with suboptimal equipment, or even no equipment at all, will really drive home that initial sense of desperation. A survival game should be a tough uphill climb, where nothing is given easily. No weapons, no armor, no spell components, no backpacks. Think naked and afraid. Use rainstorms to soak all the firewood. Have animals bay through the night to disrupt sleep. Don't be scared to increase the desperation further by having a PC or two take on a level of exhaustion when they can't get adequate comfort during a rest. After some procuring drinks and snacks from the hospital vending machines, we see Jim stumbling around the city till he finds heaps and heaps of money. Jim starts picking up the wads of cash, only to realize moments later, cash would just be dead weight in his grocery bag. We should set up situations like this too. As the players start looking for gear, force them to make tough decisions when they roll poorly for search checks or survival rolls. Only give them access to seemingly worthless equipment on bad rolls. Do they find a stringless bow or a rusty mess kit? Whatever they find, it should be, on its face, useless. Additionally, force players to choose their fail-state consequences when they're using such terrible equipment. Perhaps the players are trying to fabricate a makeshift tent from the salvage of a wrecked boat. If they fail their survival check to pitch the tent, perhaps they should decide if they rip the canvas or snap the rope. You can even do this on rolls that are mediocre. Grant the players their success, but have that success come at a cost. Perhaps they finally start a fire with damp firewood, but the players have to choose what equipment got burned up in the process. That struggle for survival, especially at the beginning of the game, should push equipment attrition to the center stage. With all this said, just doing a series of checks to gain the needed supplies can be tedious and frustrating if they don't also build tension. Be sure to telegraph terrible things, constantly hovering around the corner while the players scrape together an existence. Lost and confused, Jim spends a better portion of the day ambling around an abandoned London. But why is the city abandoned? Where did everybody go? Why did everybody leave everything behind, especially all that money? Eventually, he comes upon a makeshift memorial. There are drawings, photos, gifts, dead flowers. It becomes clear that some disease has roared through the population and killed tons and tons of people. But what it doesn't answer is what kind of disease. Desperate for those answers, Jim visits his childhood church, hoping that if nothing else, religion can give him something to latch onto. It's only fitting he has his questions answered in this location. He gets answers, but they are not what he was expecting. The thing that has destroyed society now tries to destroy him. His childhood priest, now a zombie, is desperate to feed. As the players stumble around looking for equipment, pepper in details which explain the calamity that caused the situation they're currently in. Reveal information of a lurking doom. As you present these breadcrumbs, they should evoke more questions than they do answers. This will do two things. One, it reinforces that need for supplies, putting a time-sensitive pressure on the party to find suitable equipment and safety. Two, it allows you to guide the story toward a great build-up and release moment. Once the players are nearly comfortable, you can test their success by hurtling a taste of the calamity directly at them. Give them a definitive answer to their questions by thrusting it upon your barely prepared players. As Jim bumbles around London, he befriends a few other survivors. They listen to a looping radio broadcast, review their map, and analyze their dwindling supplies. It becomes evident that while they might be safe now, their safety will only be valid for so long. After a bit of argument, Jim and his friends make their way to a military depot and hope that they don't encounter too much danger on the way. As Dungeon Masters, the breadcrumbs we drop to provide answers while raising new questions should forecast a place of long-term security. Have the players exhaust all reasonable supplies on hand in exchange for the level of safety they will come to have. This will create a new sensation of pressure. Show the players that their impending doom is growing, while their food and resources are dwindling. As the players gain an increased sense of safety, the stakes of survival should also be raised. In this film, one zombie in a church gives way to a few zombies in a house, gives way to dozens of zombies in an apartment tower. The party must move on to safety. Driving north, Jim and his new friends finally find refuge in an old manor house, guarded to the teeth by remnants of the armed forces. But the protagonists realize they've simply traded one danger for another. The soldiers plan to take the worst kind of advantage of Selena and Hannah and reward Jim for his struggle with an unceremonious death. But Jim and Selena manage to claw their way back from the edge. They compromise the safety of the manor, using the zombies as a weapon to cover their escape. In the end, they exact revenge on their captors and avoid the zombie horde. These final moments are the last lessons 28 Days teaches us about horror survival storytelling. Throughout the entire film, Jim and his friends are constantly thrust into situations they barely have the resources to handle. Whenever the characters gain any kind of security, a new kind of threat applies pressure to disrupt it. First, only the most basic supplies lead to defeating a single zombie. A soda can becomes a weapon. But by the end of the film, Jim and his friends escape the zombie horde and a few dozen soldiers laden with firearms. This kind of build and release can only go on for so long, however. As soon as the player characters are finally up to full muster, they should face off against the most powerful version of the things that have given them all this grief up to now. 28 Days Later is a shining example of survival horror. Start your characters with nothing. Increase the level of threat as the characters gain access to better security and equipment. Keep the pressure on to disrupt that feeling of safety, and give the characters that payoff of relief when they are finally at full strength and ready to escape total annihilation. Your players may lament starting a session with nothing but soda cans and plastic bags, but it will make the victory that much sweeter. Thanks for tuning into Dungeon Masterpiece, and until next time, Dungeon Masters, good night.